Welcome back to the band guide. I'm your band guy, Colin. And in this video, I'm going to EQ all the tracks in a song right in front of you. Let's make it happen.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love.
This video is the third video in a 6-part series where I walk through the 6 steps to a Pro Mix in GarageBand. This video is all about EQ, but I don't really have time to explain EQ, so instead I made a free EQ cheat sheet where I break down the components of an EQ and then I give you a frequency chart to help guide your EQ decisions. I put a sneak peek of this chart up on the GarageBand subreddit, and one user has already commented back saying, I just followed this image for something I made in GarageBand and it already sounds miles better. So be sure to grab that. There's a link in the description where you can download it completely free. Now, a couple of quick disclaimers. Because of time, I won't be EQing in mono, but I am a big proponent of that. I also won't be able to walk through every single EQ move I make, but I'll try to cover the major ones at the end, and if you have any specific questions, be sure to leave me a comment. Let's go ahead and dive in. So we want to EQ in the context of the mix. So let's go ahead and start by listening to a little bit of the chorus and think about what EQ moves we might want to make.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you.
All right off the bat, I can tell I want to cut out a little bit of the boxiness in the kick drum. I want to maybe add a little bit more low in there. I want a little more definition in the snare, and I probably just want to add definition all around the mix. Take out some things that maybe aren't sounding good and add a little bit, highlight a little bit that is sounding good. With EQ, our main 3 goals are to minimize the bad, highlight the good, and then make space for every source. So we're going to be doing all 3 of those things today. So I'm going to start with this kick drum because that was the first thing that jumped out at me. So we want to EQ in the context of the mix. Don't live in solo, but once you've kind of identified what you want to do in the context of the mix, you can go into solo to identify specific frequencies that you're trying to cut out or highlight. So let's go and start with this kick drum.
Higher.
Oh yeah, that's better already. So I don't want any of this really low rumble. I do want a little more low end. All right, let's see what that, let's balance the volume there. So it needs a little more volume.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love. Higher.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, moving on, let's hit the snare.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love. Higher, higher.
Add a little bit of body. Let's find there's a weird frequency in here. One more. There it is.
Oh, I take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I take you higher. You higher, higher, oh my love.
I'm gonna hit these toms. Actually, let's do this end. We're gonna hit the floor toms. I want a little more. I like really big toms, so I want a little more low in there. They're just really mid-rangey. I don't want any of that low. I'm going to copy this as a starting page for that other floor tom. Are you tired of hearing that yet? That's EQ, man. You just got to play it and play it. All right, let's paste this here. I think it just needs a little bit less high end all around, so I'm just gonna do, that sounds better. And there's only 2 hits there, so we don't need to spend forever on this. Okay, let's go back to this chorus. See when everything comes in here. Let's see, right there.
Higher, higher, oh I take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I take you higher,
Yeah. Just a little bit of boxiness. Much better.
Oh my love, higher, higher.
Honestly, I love the way these rims sound. I'm not going to touch them. Let's hit this percussion.
Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love.
Quick trick for hearing in the mix. Use the output gain here to just gain it up a little bit so you can hear it better, and then set it back after.
Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh,
It's really good. I'm not going to do too much there.
higher, higher.
Down low.
Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love.
Notice that there's fizziness in these guitars, but you can't hear it in the mix.
Higher.
That's going to get in the way of the vocals. I'm just going to cut that out. We're just going to use a high pass on this. This is pretty common in electric guitars. To just cut that out, man. You don't need it.
Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my
I
love.
find it does help.
Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher,
So this is a lead, so I do want to have a little more of that top end, but I'm going to cut some of it.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, take you higher, higher, oh my love.
Awesome. Now, I'm not going to do a lot on this digital stuff, except for this piano here. I always find that digital piano needs a little bit mud cut and a little bit of a high boost. Yeah, there's some weirdness there. Maybe a sharper cut. Typically sharper cuts, wider boosts. I'll go a little bit wider on this though. Oops, on something good. Let's do it in the mix though.
Higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher.
Getting close. Okay, so for vocals, I'm going to do this lead vocal and the main support vocals, and then the rest of them, I'm just going to do high pass filters for sake of time in this video. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. So let's do this lead vocal here.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my
So set it
love.
till you start to notice it cutting in, and then cut it back a little bit.
Higher,
So it's getting real thin.
higher, oh, I'll take you.
Unless you want to cut a little bit of that low mud, but that sounds okay to me. Now I'm going to find there's a couple of honky frequencies in here, kind of nasally, tinny.
Higher, higher,
Hear that?
oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my
Small
love.
cuts here, one more.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love.
And I want more brightness.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher,
Hear that? It's
higher,
already clear in the mix. It's crazy. Just a little thing like that. It's already clear in the mix.
higher,
Now these
higher.
other vocals right here are just the exact same thing, just a different take. So same part, same room, same mic. So I'm going to copy these same signals, EQ curves onto here. Just paste them. But then I'm going to, as opposed to a shelf, I might leave it flat. I often cut it. I think I'm just going to leave this one flat.
Higher,
Yeah, there's plenty of space for that lead. So I'm going to copy this one and do it on this other right panned one. Paste.
higher,
You see, you hear how like that lead really cuts through because we don't have the shelf on the backing. Helps a lot. Subtle, but it helps a lot.
higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh
Okay, so
my
the only thing
love.
left here is just the additional vocal parts. So I'm just going to breeze through these and add a high pass filter on all of them. If I were doing this for a final mix, what I would likely do is spend a little bit of time after and just see if there are any frequencies that are sounding a little bit wonky. In fact, actually, you know what? Let me go on to this high one here. We'll find any frequencies a little wonky here.
Higher, higher,
Actually, I'm going to start. You know what? Let's start with this.
higher.
Okay.
Higher, higher,
It's a little wonky.
higher, higher, higher.
Boom. That's a little bit of that mid-range. We're just going to copy this. We're going to use this on all of them. And then if we find that that doesn't work when you're going through the mix, you can do something different. So I'm going to fast forward through this part. You can watch me do it, and then I'll break down everything I did at the end. All right.
Higher, higher.
Okay. So let me just make sure I'm still recording. Still recording. All right. So we've done several changes here, and I wanted to fly through the vocals at the end because at the end of the day, those are all support items, and I don't really hear them getting in the way of the other things. So they all sound okay themselves to me. I cut out a little bit of that wonkiness in the upper mid-range, and that probably makes a little more space for the guitars and other things that are living in that same area. But otherwise, I didn't really want to do a whole lot to them. The less processing you can do, the better. The more natural things sound, the less processing we do on them. So I went ahead and just kind of did a very small amount through all of them. I did want to do that high pass filter on all of those because that cuts out that low end rumble that the mic might have picked up. All of that builds up if you have 40 tracks that have, or in this case, I think we have 12 vocal tracks. All of those just having a little bit of low end rumble, that gets in the way of the kick drum and the bass guitar. So we definitely want to make that extra little bit of space. But mostly what we've done here is, you know, we've gone through, I've cut out frequencies that weren't good, minimized the bad, and then I've highlighted the good. We wanted that low end in that kick drum, or in the snare, we had some wonky frequencies right here, but we wanted a little more body and we wanted a little more crack. So I brought those in with the EQ. That's a snare bottom, toms, just a little bit more low end, a little bit less of that weird middle range frequency. If you cut all this little by little on each track, it adds up. But you don't want to do it in solo. You want to hear how things sound in the mix. I didn't do anything on the rooms. Percussion, very, very simple. Bass amp, you know, it sounded really good. We just wanted to notch a little bit here. And I'm not hearing the bass and the kick drum fighting too much. So I left that mostly the same. Acoustic, again, we want to cut out that rumble and we wanted to just brighten it all up a little bit. And then the guitars, we did this simple EQ cuts on the top and the bottom, and then we highlighted frequencies that we liked. So the big thing here is that if you get a recording that sounds good to start, then you don't have to do as much on the back end to make sure that it fits in the mix and that it sounds really, really good. And that was the whole goal of what we were doing here in this mix. The only other thing I'll talk about quickly is just well, one, this piano here, this EQ on the piano, we just want to brighten that up a little bit. We want to cut a little bit of that mid-range that was getting in the way of other things and didn't really help this source. And then on the lead vocal here, same thing. Cut things that don't matter. Little bit here to notch out some kind of weird nasally frequencies that could have been the room, could have been the singer, could have just been the microphone. It could have been anything in there. It's just find a couple of those frequencies and notch them out just a little bit, and then just add a little bit of brightness if you need it. If you don't need it, don't add it. And then just we're minimizing the bad, highlighting the good, and making space for every source. And if you do that, you're on your way to a pro mix already. So there's no great way for me to bypass all these plugins at once, all the EQs at once in GarageBand. So what I'm going to do is play through this chorus, and I'm just going to go from that earlier take where we listened to it before, and we'll just compare bypass and showing the no EQ and EQ on the whole channels. Notice that there's more kick drum that you can hear, more low end that you can hear. There's a little bit less of the mid-range mud that you typically get in mixes with a lot of buildup in those regions. And then there's just a little bit more clarity and brightness that you get. Just a little bit on each channel adds up, and there's all of a sudden a lot of clarity and brightness. So a little more low end, a little less mud, and a little more clarity and brightness.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, my love.
Insane, right? And that's just EQ. And notice that I didn't even put EQ on every single track. To be fair, I'm extremely familiar with this song. I recorded this song, I wrote a lot of these parts, I've mixed this song before, so I kind of know where a lot of the things need to sit in this mix. If it's your first time mixing, I'd at least go through the tracks and see, does this maybe need a high pass filter, low pass filter, a boost, or a cut? But don't assume that you're going to need EQ on every single channel. You definitely don't need EQ on every single channel. So keep that in mind. Don't put EQ on every single channel. Listen and decide before you start throwing EQs around. What do I need to highlight? What do I need to cut? What does this song need? So why before you start putting an EQ on it? Be sure to download that free EQ cheat sheet, and if this video is helpful to you, be sure to subscribe. I'm back every single week. And before you go, I want to ask you another question. What's one source that you really struggle to EQ? Is it vocals? Is it snare? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next week with a deep dive into compression.